So your reputation is made up of moments of truth. In recruitment, I like to say it's any interaction with a client, candidate, or colleague, any interaction will either enhance your reputation or make it worse.
What if you had the opportunity to have coffee with your 18-year-old self? What advice would you offer? And would you actually take the advice on offer? I'm absolutely fascinated by that question. I interview people from all walks of life, from Heineken Cup winners, New York Times bestselling authors, local taxi man, you name them, I've interviewed them. Be inspired, learn and grow from the experience of others. Welcome to the What I Know Now podcast with Mark Kelly. My guest today is Greg Savage. A lot of you will know him from his blog, Greg Savage Truths. Greg has run recruitment businesses for over 4 decades and spent the remainder of the time advising them. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
So when you're 3 and 4 years of age, you don't really dream to be a recruitment agent. It could be a fireman, a policeman, or maybe something like that, or a sports star. What made you get into the recruitment industry?
I was going to play rugby for South Africa, actually. Mark, was my job, but it never happened. I was 21 and I had a degree in psychology and economics. I'd never heard of the recruitment industry. It was 1980, Mark. And I went to a recruitment organization, never heard of what they did. And they said, you don't have any skills, you don't really have any qualifications, but you seem like a likely lad. We'll give you a job as a recruiter. And so I started in recruitment straight from university, and I was doing executive search. That was 37 years ago.
Wow. It's not really a nice way to tee up the recruitment industry to say you've got no skills, but we'll give you a job, right?
Yeah, I think actually it was a very good organization. It was a management consulting firm in executive search. And they did me the biggest favor, apart from hiring me. They gave me magnificent training. I mean, I was 21 and the next youngest person in the company was 40.
Wow.
So it was sort of a crusty old school, but I learned the processes, and I also learned selling retainers and about our value, which I've kept as a basic sort of belief right through the years.
So tell me a little bit about what you've learned from meeting so many different types of people and the education that you've got while working in the recruitment industry. Well,
look, I love recruitment. You'd imagine that would be true because I've been in it so long. Look, there have been many, many down times, but I think it suits my personality, and many of the people in recruitment are the sort of people I like to associate with, and I'll tell you why. I mean, the industry's got a bad reputation, partially unfairly, because there's some magnificent people in it. The first thing is about recruitment is that, and about great recruiters, is that basically, and this isn't said enough, Mark, we do a good thing. We find people jobs, and we find companies talent to drive their businesses forward. You know, I've got friends who mock the recruitment industry, and they're lawyers and they defend criminals. And I've got other friends who are in banking and they probably are criminals, and yet they criticize the recruitment industry. We do a good thing. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I come back to that, and the people who last in this industry long term still believe in the human element. So that's one of the reasons I love recruitment, but there are many others if you'd like me to tell you about them.
Yeah, they're great. So I've been in the recruitment industry for over a decade, right? So not quite the 4 decades, but I've been, if not more for you, but I've been in it for a decade. And for me, it's about changing people's life for the better. The value you add to a company by adding some great people can completely transform the company. But I'm also passionate about you can change a person from doing a 2-hour commute to work and 2-hour commute home where he doesn't get to see his family and kids to now suddenly going 20 minutes on his bicycle to work, and that changes his whole entire life and different type of work. And it's really, really powerful. And I always found the small things had the biggest difference in that.
100%. And you know, when I was doing recruitment on the desk, you know, I remember things like talking to a candidate who said, no, I'm not interested in going for that job. I've never heard of that company. An average recruiter would go, okay, I'll find you another job, another company to go and interview at. But I remember saying, you know, many, many times, and great recruiters do this, no, this is worth going to, let me explain why, and selling the job to the person. They go to the job, they love the job, they get their job, and the career takes off. This is good stuff, you know, and that's where we get our energy, because it's a very tough business, as you know that, Mark. There are many disappointments, and so you need the buzz out of making things happen. This is an influencing job. Done well, this is an influencing job. Unfortunately, many recruiters are no more than keyword matches, spamming resumes around town. but they will not last. They're
Yeah.
dying out already.
And I believe the influence is key because in order to influence, you need to really invest in your topic, understand the businesses you represent, and understanding the market. And once you've got that information, you can then influence because you're a consultant and you're knowledgeable, which is really good. Tell me about some of the challenges that you faced kind of going through your career, because when we gave the snapshot of you having a successful career, that might sound fantastic, but tell me about some of the challenges or hardships that you came to get on this journey.
Oh, well, there have been a myriad of those. I mean, look, when I give out my bio, I finesse it to only show all the good stuff. But there's been a complete catalogue of cock-ups and cataclysmic mess-ups along the way, mistakes made. There have also been external factors, Mark, like the massive recession in the early 90s in Australia. To give you an idea of the scale of that, the business that I founded with some other guys that had grown to $13 million in turnover, that dropped to $9 million in a year. Our permanent job vacancies went from over 200 at one time down to 18. So that was a huge, very, very stressful period. 60% of recruitment companies in Australia went bust. And that took massive resilience and some good strategy. Tremendously difficult, not only from a financial point of view, but from a human point of view. You know, you're having to make decisions about people that are extraordinarily tough. And that's where the sleepless nights come. You know, I've never had a sleepless night about a client or, you know, a candidate really. You have your sleepless nights about your staff.
Tell me about some of the strategies that you did that differentiated you, that you had as kind of a unique selling point, that your brand was positioned higher and people wanted to start to work with you.
It is a very difficult thing to do consistently well and to generate consistent service to your clients and candidates as your business grows. And there were plenty of things that we did. One of them was to offer 100% money back guarantees instead of replacements. The other thing I remember doing, which was, you know, really shook up the industry and I was criticized for it, is we introduced Net Promoter Score in our business, which is customer satisfaction, and then we linked that to the recruiter's bonus plan. Right? So it wasn't all about fees. It was about the satisfaction of the customer. And I did that at WIKN about 7 or 8 years ago. And that was a game changer. The other thing that I remember doing at one point in my career was which in a contingent job market, was to turn away all business that was not exclusive. So permanent jobs were either exclusive or you didn't do them with us. And that took courage, you know. We lost a lot of business, but the business we got, we filled 90% of it. So those are some of the things that have been interesting over the years that have made a significant difference. But the real differentiator, if you want something generic, is the training that you give your consultants, the retention, the quality of their service delivery. That is a self-fulfilling money generator, which our industry, despite its obviousness, has not caught on to.
So there's 3 things that you did there that rolled off your tongue that truly are very, very important. The first thing is Net Promoter Score. Only very few companies are actually even bringing that in today and consistently doing it. So it's very, very important. The second thing is linking that to your the bonuses. That is definitely a game changer. And the third thing I think is absolutely fantastic is turning away the business unless it's exclusive. Now that is courage, because a recruiter will prefer to work a crap job than work no job, and to have the confidence from the senior manager to say this is how we're going to do it is fantastic. I think the stat is that if you work a job that there's low level commitment or a company will accept CVs, it's around 16% fill rate, and people will still take those jobs and run around telling people they've got jobs. It is pretty crazy. So you saw the benefit of that, and you're actually living the fruits. So it's brilliant.
It's market's dysfunctional, this whole multi-listed job order situation. But let me tell you a bit more about that particular thing. First of all, while it was semi-brave, it wasn't that brave because I had a big temporary business. And so the temporary business was the machine. We had a big permanent business too. But I wasn't only a permanent business. If I had been, I'm not sure it would have been that brave. The second thing is I got massive resistance from my own company internally. My own staff could not believe that I was driving this, that we were going to turn, and I lost some recruiters. But I held firm because it was absolutely clear to me that if we had, as you quite rightly say, we had recruiters working on 20 orders and filling 2 and, you know, driving themselves into the ground with frustration. And when we did this, it dropped to sort of 8 orders, and they filled 6. So in the end, we were billing more, and of course, the consultants were earning more. And funnily enough, the side effect, which I hadn't really thought through, was that candidate care and service went up. Because the consultants, recruiters don't come in to work thinking, how will I piss off my candidates today? That's not what they think. It's because they're so busy working on job orders that aren't real that they don't have time to service their candidates. So there was a massive side benefit. And I'm glad I did that. And to a different degree, I'm influencing companies to think that way, from being on their board or being an investor in them at the moment.
Yeah, it's very, very smart. I think it's very, very smart as well. So Greg, did you have many mentors growing up, or who was giving you advice along the way, or where do you get your type of valuable advice?
I have learned from a wide variety of people, and I'm still learning from them. I have reverse mentors. I have a 14-year-old that I go to, and that mentors me on the latest technology. And actually, when she turned 15, I fired her and got another 14-year-old. So you can learn a lot. I didn't really fire her, but you can learn a lot from the young ones coming through. And I encourage people of my vintage, or even yours, to talk to young people about what technology they're using and how they use it. So I haven't really had one or two people that I could say were mentors, but there are two people I will mention. One is a guy called Graham Whelan, who I started Recruitment Solutions with. I reckon Graham will be 65 now. He's been recruiting for 40 years. He is the best recruiter I've ever seen. I wrote a blog about it. It was called The Best Recruiter I've Ever Seen. His honesty, his integrity, his work ethic, and that influenced me to understand that you can be commercial, you can be competitive, and you can do that without ever losing your humanity. And he has empathy. And not a lot of recruiters have lost that a long time ago. So here's a guy who's kept me, we haven't worked together for 10 years, but we have a lunch every now and again. But he's kept me grounded, because I'm very driven to be successful and all the rest of it. And he, without ever actually saying the words, he made it clear that we never forget about the people, and we never forget about our responsibility to the candidate, the client, and our colleagues. And so that has influenced me significantly. The other one would be, funnily enough, my father. And he was a shoe salesman from the East End of London, and we grew up in South Africa. He wasn't. He built a nice little business, and we had a fine life and all that. But he influenced my values. And I remember very recently, my brother and I were sitting down to have a conversation about a difficult situation regarding my mother and her care and one thing and another. And it was very difficult. There was money involved. There was passion. There was views. And in the end, I said, we should do it this way. And he said, why? And I said, because if Dad was here, he would say, well done, boys. And my brother looked at me and said, you're right. That's how we got to do it. And that proves that my father is from reaching back 20 years he's been gone, he is still mentoring us, because we're making decisions based on his values.
That's a great story. Strong mentor. That's a very, very great story. So tell me a little bit where you think the recruitment industry is going, because we've got Google have entered the market a couple of months ago, Microsoft have bought LinkedIn, Indeed Prime is obviously playing a play, we've got Upright, Hire, we've got a 99-cent app can come in and maybe disrupt the market. So where do you see the market going?
So most of those things you mentioned are old school things that aren't going to make any difference at all. LinkedIn is no game changer. It's been going 15 years, and ever since it came along, recruiters have never made more money. LinkedIn's not your future. You should use it. Job boards are not your future. There are many, we talked about exclusive job orders earlier on. The secret to exclusive job orders is two things: having the courage to sell why it's in the client's interest to go exclusive, but secondly, having the ability to deliver the candidates that your competitors can't. So the future of recruitment is many things, but one of them, I'll just give you a few of them. One of them is agency recruiters need to become world champions at finding talent, but finding talent is actually going to come easier and easier, because people are easier to find on the internet. Privacy is a thing of the past, and algorithms will find people. Recruiting people, approaching them, having the conversation, telling a story, the finesse of trust and bringing that person into the hiring process is the skill. A link to that is the ability to actually act as the candidate's agent, which is, I think, where the future of recruitment is. The other point I'll make to you, because I could go on for quite some number of hours on this topic, the thing that's much more important than all the things you mentioned is the emergence of artificial intelligence and machine learning. which is no fairy tale. It's not science fiction. It's going to affect our business. And what it's going to do is it's going to take away the drudgery, the hack work, and the process. Now, the problem with that, Mark, is it's the drudgery, the hack work, and the process that most recruiters spend 90% of their time doing. And what I'm saying is recruiters should embrace artificial intelligence. We should get chatbots to do the screening. We should get matching tools to come up with our shortlists. Sourcing is going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. All these people who are in sourcing jobs, well, you heard it here first, sourcing's dead. That'll all be done by an algorithm. The part of recruitment that's going to be left is the part that the machines can't do, Mark, and that's the influencing, selling, persuading, consulting part of the job. And 80% of recruiters around the world don't have any skills in that area. So they won't be replaced by artificial intelligence. They'll be replaced because they don't have the skills that have value.
So tell me a little bit about the advice that you'd offer to your younger self. Let's say you're having a coffee or a tea or maybe a beer with your 18-year-old self. What advice do you think you're offering? And you can dictate this to a young Greg, or maybe you can put this to anybody who's kind of coming up through their ages now.
I'll be delighted to talk about that because I've got a 20-year-old son 2 bedrooms away, and he could do with listening to some of this. But it's not only if you're 18 or 20. The first thing I wish I had been smarter at, and I wish he would be smarter at, and I told him this the other day, and it didn't get far, is that I wish I had been intelligent enough to realize how much good advice my father was giving me at 18, 19, and 20. And my advice to young people, and I put myself in this category when I was young, is to just cut back on the arrogance, cut back on the smartness, and do a bit of listening, because your parents may not, or some other mentor may not understand Snapchat, but they understand the realities of life. And, it's a great joke. I think Mark Twain said it when he said, when I was 17, my father was such a fool. When I got to 21, I was amazed how much cleverer he'd got. And of course, what that means is that he'd got cleverer.
Sure.
So I think that is something I wish I'd done. And as I mentioned, he's long gone. And I often, I'm 60 in a few months. I often, to this day, wish I could ask him things, and I wish I'd listened more. So I think just absorbing from experience is a smart thing to do. The other thing that I would share with people is, and now that I'm sort of in the latter part of my career, is that 90% of the stuff that worry us, that keep us awake at night, that we have anxiety attacks about, is totally irrelevant and inconsequential. You need to learn to give. I mean, I'm pretty good at this now. I wasn't. There is so much stuff we angst over that is just petty, and it's not going to matter in months, let alone years. So get perspective. And also on the question of perspective, I'd like to say to many people, and I've learned this from my own mistake, is that you're never as good as you think you are. You should be fearful of complacency. I see this everywhere, and hubris, and kind of when things are going well, believe that you are, impenetrable, because it's just before pride that the fall comes. But the flip side of that is when things are going badly, don't listen to those people in your ear saying that you're negative and saying that you can't succeed. Don't lose faith in yourself just because others can't see your value at that particular time. Really what I'm saying is get perspective. Don't be carried away in the good times. It's in the good times that you need to be self-disrupting. I say this to recruiters now. Now is the time to self-disrupt while we're making money and prepare ourselves for the change that's coming down the pipe. And on the other hand, if things aren't going well, don't believe you can't do it, because in most cases you can. And there are, I got a few of these. Perhaps the biggest piece of advice I'd give people, which I've learned, is this: don't fuck with your reputation. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give everybody. Particularly in this era now, with false news and lack of authenticity, people crave dealing with real people. Despite with the increase of digital technology and the way we communicate, the irony of that is that people crave authenticity. And you've got to take a long-term view on your reputation. It's how you treat people in the key moments. And it's not about being nice when the going's easy. It's very easy to be nice when there's no problem. It's how you act when things are tough, Mark, that define you as a person. Right? When money is at stake, when pride is on the line, you will see how people behave. And I like to say you can judge a person about how they behave in the wet ass hour. In other words, when things are scary and things are on the line, that's when you can You can tell. And you know, you don't make friends in a crisis. If you want people to help you, you have to build goodwill equity through treating people well, sharing information, helping people out, treating people with basic good manners, I suppose, or treating people well, and you build that up. So your reputation is made up of moments of truth. In recruitment, I like to say it's any interaction with a client, candidate, or colleague. Any interaction will either enhance your reputation or make it worse.
100%. Greg, thank you very much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for yours. It's a privilege to be on your video show, and thank you for taking the time to chat to me all the way over here in Australia.
You can listen to the What I Know Now podcast with Mark Kelly. To subscribe to the podcast, just enter WIKN into iTunes or any Android podcast of choice, or check out the website at www.wikn.co. I'd love to get your feedback, either positive or negative, about the episode, what action you're going to take. I look forward to seeing you next week, and remember, have an absolutely super day. Bye.